Right. So, welcome everyone, and thanks for spending part of your Thursday with us. You're here for a conversation we're calling The Economics of AI Software Delivery. I'm Mimi Fernandez. I lead growth marketing at Inventive, and I'll be moderating today. Um, we budgeted about an hour. The first 45 minutes, we'll have a conversation, and definitely throw us your questions for the last 15 and drop them in the chat. Keegan will help us keep those organized. For those of you who don't know us, Inventive is a software firm. We've been building and inheriting complex software for mid-market and enterprise companies since 2016. So we're in our 10th year now. We're celebrating all year. We work across a lot of industries: accounting, healthcare, higher education, financial services. We are agnostic to industries, but those are the ones where we've had some experience. And then for the last year, most of our energy has gone into what is AI actually doing to the work of building software. So not what you see in the demos, but the version that has kept us thinking on a Tuesday morning, what are we working on today? So let me introduce Andy Seymour, who is our co-founder and CEO. He's been building software for a couple of decades, and he spent the last year with his hands directly in running AI agents on real production work and writing about what he's finding as he finds it. We've all been working in AI for many, many years, but just really honing in on what the new tools can show us. And he's on Substack and he writes for Forbes, and he writes in real time. So a lot of the things that he shares are things that he's experiencing in real time. And that's what inspired us to do this webinar today, is to really talk about, with all the noise out there about the next tool that will change your life, really talk about what's working and what's not working. We also have Eric Hexter, our is a CTO and a hands-on AI engineer who's been building agent teams from the inside. Andy and Eric have known each other for years, and he's one of the practitioners we trust most to go to and to learn from. Eric brings the field engineer view, what's actually buildable today versus what just looks good in a demo. So I'm going to try to keep us honest. I'm going to try to keep the conversation going. And everyone's heard that AI makes software 10x faster. And even in talking with people before this webinar, we heard from people saying, "Oh, I'm doing 5x to 10x already. So, I don't need this webinar." Well, okay. But we think that today it's about whether that's true and where it falls apart and what that means if you're the one writing the check for the SOW. So I want to talk about where AI actually compresses the work. So Andy, you talk about AI can't always estimate well. You've said AI is genuinely bad at estimating. It quotes 10 to 14 weeks for something, but it actually takes a couple of hours. And that only holds if there's a good plan behind it. What do you think the real story is here?
I think it's interesting. Eric can jump in along the way, but there's estimating for greenfield, super easy, clean slate, not a lot of problems to worry about. Estimating in brownfield, a little bit more murky. But I think the thing that we're looking at from Eric and I's perspective is AI is giving you human timescale estimates based on the knowledge that it's learned from the internet. And we all know that when it says, "Oh, it's going to take 3 weeks," or however long it's going to take, I actually know it's probably going to take 3 hours. But how do we actually take AI's assessment of estimate and translate that to how will our team at Inventive or your team at your company, how do those estimates actually work out? So some of the research that Eric has started and I'm starting to look at is every time it tells me it's going to take days, hours, weeks, sometimes I get months estimates. What do those mean? How do they actually translate to the team? And then there's a different side. So if we just translate 2 months to 2 hours, and that's an accurate timescale, maybe, there's the other side of inside of your operating system for how you run AI or humans plus AI. What guardrails do you have in place? Because 2 hours to go from my plan to AI saying it's done, followed by potentially 2 days of debugging and finding all the things it didn't do and all the things that it did based on its assumptions, but that didn't quite match, versus those 2 hours, I've got an amazing plan because I probably spent an hour having it grill me, so to speak, on what the plan should be. Lots of details there. I have my architecture defined. I have my guardrails in place. I'm forcing tests to be written along the way. Well, those 2 hours may actually translate to 2 hours where I get to the end of it and I'm actually got, pretty much working software. So it's kind of a weird gray zone. And so applying its estimate to human timeframes and your process is probably what we need to figure out. And I don't haven't really seen anybody thinking about that because it's not really applicable to their business model in the same way that it is ours. So
Yeah,
Eric,
but we
you
all have
probably have.
bosses. We all have bosses that we need to, you know, report to and say, like, this is how much time I'm thinking it's going to take. Eric, well, how do you answer that question? Or do
Well,
you?
yeah. So Andy, you kind of hit on the one part is it's trained on the internet, which means it was trained on humans, and software developers have always been horrible at estimating. We went to story points, we went to hours, we went to man days and man months. So so one, if when an AI is saying, "Hey, here's my estimate," oh, it should take 3 weeks. Like part of that is then, okay, well, let's the same way you had to frame, hey, here's the technology, the stack, here's the business context we're in. You actually also have to say, okay, well, how are you framing your estimates? What went into that? So if you're not specific about asking it how it's producing its estimates, it's just kind of grabbing these things out of thin air the same way a software developer would when, and we know they're off by a factor of 10 sometimes. So did the risk go in that? So it's yeah, I think the training data is kind of the first place where everything kind of goes off the rails.
And it might be as simple as some of the cool trending things that people are seeing is my agent operating system dashboard, and
Hmm.
it's cool from a visualization maybe around your spend or what an agent or collection of agents is doing. But I think the thing that we actually should be doing is some of the stuff we've done on either agent frameworks or harnesses, where we're seeing, what kind of issues is it creating for itself? How do we correct that? But also, I think we need to start wiring in the real estimation side of things, so that almost like iteration zero in the old agile days, a story point doesn't really mean anything until you have some burn-in time with a team, because the story point concept is unique to that team on that code base with its product team and design team, and all those things are inputs to the gray zone of how long will this take. So I think we have to, start tracking those metrics, and that way we can kind of plan around what it is.
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually started kind of going back to some of the kind of the machine learning uh, things we've been doing over the last 10 years. So part of that is as it's going, right, have it, let's say you do a story like these smaller components that you're going to the AI is going to build, have it keep track of like what it did, how long did it actually take, how long was it waiting, how many tokens did it use, and also capture the inputs. And what I mean by that is like what was the story or what were the written requirements that kind of got fed in. And if you break down the smaller things and start saving that data, then you would use this data as training data for a actual, a more traditional machine learning model. You can then kind of feed that in and have it build a model. And the most important part is back testing, right? So let's say the first project we just collected the data and we had it come up with some sort of method to estimate. We can then have it estimate based on what the input was and the state of the code base was, and see if it matches up. And essentially, I think we could train models, but to Andy, to your point, we got to be thinking about that from the start of some of our projects, or you're just going to kind of be stuck in a spot where like, well, it said 3 weeks, so must be
It,
3 hours, right?
it's still fuzzy. I try to tell all of our teams, we estimate a lot of software projects. An estimate's an estimate, and I think this estimate will still be an estimate because there
Yeah.
are a lot of dynamic inputs. So story size, story complexity is part of it, but also in our case, does the customer understand what they need? So we're estimating a thing they told us they need, but until we actually, lift the lid. So it's still probably fuzzy, but right now we're getting told, here's my inputs. Oh, cool. It'll take, 3 months or some number of days, which all of us know at this point is like that's total crap. Like it's probably hours. The thing that I think is the other conversation that we're having is that we have very experienced software developers, so we kind of know how to pick architecture decisions apart and kind of think beyond the feature that we're actively developing. And most of the models are like, oh, that bug isn't in scope, and that was created by somebody else. And I'm like, bro, you AI are the only person who's worked on this code base. You created it, you fix it. So it's this weird state of, we keep moving forward, and as we move forward, we keep finding other things that need to be fixed that inform that, how long will this thing take? And it's the idea that, we're super frustrated by this, but I think we have to back up to the 30,000 foot view. It's like I can generate so much software in a day or in 2 days, and then all of a sudden I have to spend half of the next day cleaning up and debugging and like rubbing off the rough edges, and people are like pissed because can't trust that AI thing. It doesn't go fast enough. And I'm like, whoa, like the things that we're building now are hundreds of thousands of dollars in non-AI world where we have to have teams of people doing it. And so I think it's the Amazon Prime thing where I can order something and they put it in my hand, later today. Well, now my expectation of all things that will be shipped to me should be today, and anything less is, frustrating. So while we do have all these AI issues, I still think we have to appreciate where we're at, and we'll work our way through it. So
Yeah,
And
and that, I was
let's
just
look
going to say, and
oh,
that's
go
no
ahead.
different from how human teams are, right? We
Yeah.
build a bunch of code, we integrate it, we get it into test, and guess what? There'd be a cycle of fixing, you know?
right.
Let's talk about how judgment is our moat here. So, you've said that founders could vibe code their way, but something didn't launch, or experienced engineers could, might build it differently or talk themselves out of using AI in some way. So, what is that judgment that we keep hearing about with all the stuff we share daily in Slack? Where, what are you seeing as that moat, and what would be the process that we need to go through?
I mean, I would look at it, and I think we hit some of this on the last webinar we did, which is it still takes some experience, right? If I'm going to run a team of humans or a team of agents, I have, dozens of years of experience of help course correcting and identifying, where what the thing that's going to bite us is. Uh, so I think you still kind of need you still need experience. All the developers don't go away. We still need the experience of what choices to make, what things to double click into to really like refine requirements. Uh, and without that, yeah, the AI is just kind of going to make a bunch of decisions, and some are going to be good, and some might be a catastrophic later on.
Which is a perfect lead into you, Andy.
Oh, well, and it's interesting because I think some of the data, and I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but there are thousands or tens of thousands a day of somebody had an idea, they built their app using some of these vibe coding tools. And that's awesome because at least you're able to visualize your idea. In our experience, a lot of people will either bring us written ideas or visual ideas, and they really haven't thought about the other side that's missing, which is like the business requirements and how the flow will work and all that. So these tools are amazing, even for us to take an idea, put it a little bit more than paper, put it in an environment where I can touch it and customers can play with it, validate the idea. But the other side of that is for all these thousands or tens of thousands of ideas, they're not going live. Like it's the majority of vibe coded solutions stay as ideas. It's just that they've gone a little further. But then we're also seeing on the data side that some of the vibe coded solutions are going to production and people are reportedly making millions of dollars, and that's exciting. But we're also seeing that your social security is getting leaked, your credit cards are getting leaked, and or they'll have scale issues. And so eventually it in theory will come back to somebody who has experience, fixing those problems. So I think it's awesome. We've even thought about creating like vibe code rescue type service where we can dive into that 1 year old MVP and figure out all the rough edges and go through that process. I don't know if that's the question that you wanted answered, Mimi.
it did. So tell me all the ways that you've tried to scale with AI and how each approach didn't work. Because I really want to dive into, like this is what we tried and this is where the misses are.
I feel like this answer could be the rest of the conversation. So you'll have to cut us off because I have a thing. I'm sure Eric has a thing. Eric, also jump in. So for the past, well, again, we've been doing AI and building models and building, actual AI solutions since we got started 10 years ago. But I think what the industry thinks about what AI is fundamentally different in the past, couple of years. So we'll start there. But we have been actively trying to figure out how do we go faster with AI from an agentic coding perspective. So Claude Code in a terminal, OpenClaw, now Hermes. We also have these concepts of zero human frameworks where it's an organization of agents that are doing work. No people are doing it. Eric has built a custom agentic harness to again, create a humanless environment that can take requirements, build a thing. But I think there's beyond that, like those are real developers solving real developer problems. And I think it's a broader conversation. If we think about all the non-developers who are trying to embrace AI, when we started our journey of no code solutions in Airtable or code generation or automation frameworks like Make, we started with, okay, I'm not going to write any code. And this is me actually doing this as a coder. I'm not going to write any code to try and solve my problem. How far can I get? And Make is amazing for 80% of a business trying to automate the connectivity of one data source to another data source or munge the data and publish it in a certain way. You can go really long ways without writing any code. Also, without working with, in a terminal with a coding agent. It's not code. It's data automation, if you will. But at some point, and I've told everybody on their journey, it's like Make will get you this far. But if you're a developer and you think in a developer world, you probably should skip Make and go to N8N. Same kind of a tool. You're automating processes. You're connecting, 1,000 different things to 1,000 different things, kind of like Zapier, everybody's probably heard of. But it's more for a coding mind, if you will. So some of the problems are multiple inputs to start a business process. That's pretty standard at some point. The majority only have one input, one output. So as soon as you get to multiple inputs, that tool may not work. A concept might be I'm at a point in my workflow, I need to fan out that data flow. So again, 80% will be solved by that. But if you need to fan back in, it's like, oh crap, you can't do that in this tool. It's like, so there are lots of these like programmery kind of problems that you can work through and create hacks. But then we got to a point where even in N8N, which is very developer friendly, I'm building what we're calling a content engine, but it's basically go do research, go do content, reshape that content, publish, etc. I was trying to build basically in a true agentic system in N8N, and I made it work. And so that's cool. You can totally use this system to make it work. Totally the wrong tool to build this particular solution in. And so if you think about these tools, they're very much a graphical interface. They are a heavy abstraction to not have to write code to be able to move data around. And I was finding that I'm building custom code nodes or having, an actual code environment where every other step I'm having to reach out to APIs and do all kinds of like jumping through hoops. But I basically stopped using the graphical side of this graphical tool. And at that point, I realized, okay, I actually need to go and build a real AI solution in LangChain or LangGraph, depending on what you're trying to do, where all the pain and vibrations went away, but I lost all the cool part of the graphical interface, which was what I needed. I need to go write code. So now I'm all the way back on my journey where I started with no code, no terminal windows, no IDE. I'm like fully over here now where I'm running an IDE, I'm generating code, I'm publishing that into a code environment. So most people don't have that broad perspective. And so they keep trying to shoehorn what they need into the tool they're used to. And it's like, nah, we don't need to do that anymore.
Well,
I'll pause, Eric.
what's so exciting is that you guys are sharing in real time this tool. So paperclip keeps coming up, Eric, for you. So
Mhm.
maybe jump off what Andy was saying and tell us about the types of tools that you're implementing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, definitely I kind of started heavily kind of when Claude Code was in I think beta or pre-beta or whatever they called it, and I found it super useful trying to do DevOps kind of stuff. Go figure out all these things. There's some new tools that I haven't used, but it can it has kind of the built-in encyclopedia already trained in, so it kind of knows most of these concepts. Uh, and that worked great. Then kind of moving over to using some of these tools for code. And I think the thing that I just want to say about Andy, the journey is we keep producing all these tools so that a business user or somebody who knows what they're trying to accomplish can generate some sort of automation to happen. So we have all these abstractions in place, and I think my year of just kind of doing the full agentic stuff is like, let's just embrace the fact that the AI can talk computer, can talk in bits and bytes, and I really don't need to know all the details about how it's done it. I need to make sure it's tested, validated, and cover kind of all the edges. But all these abstractions we've kind of gone through, if they go away, you actually are making the AI more successful because it can just go look up reference implementations. It can do it. It knows where to tweak it. It's not trying to make a generalized solution. So along that path, right, that's where I kind of came along. Paperclip, which is like, hey, I have one tab. Now I got two tabs open. And now I got three tabs open. Okay, now I don't know which tab I was in, and I've got to scan this wall of text like the matrix and figure out which thing I'm looking at. That's where Paperclip comes in with the idea of I think we went from the models are super important to now it's the agentic harness, right? And Paperclip is an agentic harness, and that just means it can keep track of the tabs where a human loses track, and it also gives you kind of the auditability or kind of communication between them, right? So think of it as a Jira, where it makes tickets and it can assign tickets to agents the same way a project manager would do that, or any one of the tools that's kind of like that. So kind of fumbling through Paperclip, it's like here are all the ways I want it to work, and it was written almost vibe codey to start with. I think what I learned from that was that the same way all these abstraction tools to make it easier to develop a solution, I've now gone to, well, actually Paperclip's getting in my way. I just need a simpler harness. And now I've built like three different harnesses for different purposes, taking everything I've learned from because I've also kind of gone down the using OpenClaw and Hermes and using those to run different solutions. I've now learned, okay, yeah, actually the most important part of an agentic harness is to have the heartbeat. And it sounds silly, but hey, if it every 15 minutes it gets a reminder that says, "Hey, what were you doing? Did you crash? Did you finish the thing?" And having that piece of it, what I found is that's the piece that kind of keeps it going. It keeps it going. So it's like I can come away or walk away, come back in a couple of hours, and it made progress. It might have stalled, but it picked it back up. So.
I think what's so fun is that we keep wanting to personify, each of these or give them, profiles. But we do have a question that I wanted to raise. From Oren, he said, in this concept of vibe coding rescue, what types of environments are the ones that are best suited for future rescue? So things like traceability and documentation and awareness of what the code is doing are things I'd hoped to be available to me. I might be exactly in that situation.
Well, I think again, it's somebody, whoever's driving the tool has to have the experience to make sure that's part of the plan. As an example, if you know that being able to have a report of all the different endpoints and their health, or the frequency that you're calling endpoints, or the duration that it's taking for these endpoints to respond, those are all kind of health and visibility concepts. But if that's not in your plan, generally speaking, whatever agent you're using, whatever LLM you're using, probably isn't going to suggest that you put it in your plan necessarily. So that's where the experience overlay does kind of come into hand. It's almost like there's a difference between a proper product designer and a dev designed experience, and then now we also have an AI designed experience, and you can kind of see all three. It's why you need multiple experience inputs to help you get towards those right things. So if you want those things, just make sure they're in every single phase of execution. As here's what I want. Here's how you test that it's successfully been built, and here's the go to production story of how I want to monitor that thing that we've now made live.
Eric, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd say I typically have to prod it. Hey, save this, save your memory. Save like if we went through something, they found a problem and we interactively debugged it, my next thing after, hey, it works is save that in your memory. Like let's not go through that again. That was painful. And I think it's that piece that's going to give you the long-term uh, speed and more reliability. It's just work through problems and make sure the AI can summarize it and quantify it and save it in a way that it it can it can recall it later.
So let's talk about the technology buyer, people who are evaluating teams for their needs. What do you think is the best, what do you think the part of a software project that AI does not make cheaper? And why is that exactly where a buyer should be looking? Because, you know, yes, you could be talking to someone who needs our services and you're thinking in your mind, oh, AI could do that, but then that's not going to make it cheaper, right?
Well, I think anything where human to human contact is still seen as important because I think in many cases it is and always will be important, but there are also in many cases an agent could do that. So if I think about product development, defining the thing that we want built, generally a vendor can come to you with 100 ways to do things, but your customer and you probably should drive, which is the two or three that are right, validated against the market, et cetera. But there are areas in the product development space that we can automate. So, such as building estimates, building backlogs, building user stories, all the artifacts that define the work in a way that either a human team or an AI team can work. All that's a great AI problem to solve. But I still think we need a product manager, as an example, to interview our customer. Even though, when Eric and I are working with AI, we tell the AI to interview us. So it could totally be done and it's super efficient and it digs into all these holes. I still think that's a human requirement because most of our customers don't want to interface with a bot with a voice. Like that's still kind of awkward, even though it's really cool and fun, is not the experience people want. I'll let Eric jump in.
Yeah, I'd say the kind of the other areas that doesn't really make it cheaper. Well, it could, but like testing, does the thing you paid for, is it actually totally work? And it's not just does it work how it looks like. And a good exploratory tester will go find all these crazy things. And those are always rolled into, normal development projects. It doesn't get to go away. And probably also like go live support and kind of those other pieces of when we're actually rolling it out and you're putting real, like especially if it's a new kind of system or new concept or new capability you're adding to your business, there will be issues. You made some assumptions, even if you're talking with your customer, you thought this is going to be the best way, and it turns out it's really awkward to use. It takes more time. So that's the part that you could easily say, yeah, we got AI, but at that point, that you kind of need the service portion of the delivery.
I kind of relate it back to automated call trees, which we still do, and I think everybody still hates. And now you're like 000, give me a
Yeah.
person. Well, now when I'm chatting through a website and I can clearly see it's a bot answering my question totally wrong, I'm like, give me a person, give me a person, give me. So yeah, there are definitely things where it can be done, but the user experience side of it may not be as pleasant as it could be. So.
Yeah. And I think the humans just want to mess with the bots sometimes, like the McDonald's, chat app that, people had so much fun with. And decided like, hey, this is an AI agent that I could use. I don't have to pay for Claude.
I,
So
I will say, just to extend on that question, I think almost all aspects of software development, product development, we should be able to do a lot more in a lot less time, which should translate to a lot less money. I don't think it gets rid of humans, but I think humans can be empowered with knowledge and tools to go faster. So, and that should be across the board for almost everything, unless your industry doesn't allow it. I keep hearing like the video game industry is very much against that. Obviously, the movie industry is kind of against that. So they just have to wrap their mind around it and move forward. But
sure, the entertainment industry wants to protect their IP, but I think that it maybe it just means that we have more projects. So that actually comes, that's one of the questions I had about parallelization. So you coordinate all these multiple terminals on their own work trees. So you even said like, not sure how much faster it's helping me go through. So when a parallel agent work actually, when is it actually worth it, and when does it just create a lot more cleanup? So you could have a bunch of these things going, but you're having to manage them and go backwards and create more. It's more time for you.
I don't think the answer is strictly going to be the same per person. I might be able to manage 5 tabs that are all working in the same code base, but different branches, different actual code bases. Somebody else might be able to do 10. Where it becomes interesting is as soon as I add another human to my process, we have to be in sync and communicating and all that kind of stuff. So I think, if we strictly speak about the software development side, all the old school approaches of pull requests and branch management, again, it goes faster, but I don't think it should go away. And that's also the other side is if you're still working just in terminals and you're not using something like a Claude or a Hermes or your own framework or Paperclip, like there are lots of things out there trying to solve that. Um, you probably could be going faster than you currently are. So as an example, having 5 open tabs on one physical file system, you create problems for yourself. But having 5 different tabs on 5 different file systems, you got rid of the first set of problems, but you created a new set of problems. And if you move to something where the agents are running it, like Paperclip, again, you've removed a set of problems and created a different set of problems. So it is for each thing you're doing, you need to look at the pros and cons of it and figure out if that's right for now. And a month or two from now, where I need to start bringing in team members so I can get more polished, get ready for production, get some more perspectives. The approach may change. Like it may not be you driving an IDE with terminals. You may need to go to, something else with human coordination as part of it.
Eric, what do you think?
Uh, so part of that parallelization, I think, is can I get, whatever I'm parallelizing running long enough where I don't have to come back soon. And that just means, for the idea of like, hey, go code this, go test it, add an adversarial tester, add a reviewer, like have it have a good plan of what each parallel thing is going to do, so that at the end of it, ideally, it's already found all the issues. But I think, I've seen some other people, or I've heard people talk about this. I feel it. And at the end of the day, if I'm running like 5 to 10 parallel things, I'm wiped out. Uh, so
Mentally,
just
right?
that,
You're
yeah,
mentally
yeah,
wiped out,
mentally
right?
there's a weight to
Uh-huh.
this, and we'll see if at some point it's just yeah, maybe we just need to slow it down because yeah, it's super productive, but I'm also like, I can't even like deal with anything after it. So uh,
It,
that I think that's something we're gonna have to address and figure out.
I like to look at it. So I've got like my day job here at Inventive, and then I've got cool side stuff that I'm working on. And the side stuff's where I'm testing a lot of this. I have kind of gotten to a point where I have an agent or agents working on a really hard problem, and I have to like nudge it and refine what we're doing along the way. And that's I would call it my main thread of focus. My next main thread of focus is having AI grill me on the next big thing we're going to do. Because again, I think you need to spend more time these days on the planning than you do on the execution. So planning and testing, building, not as much. So I'm working on that next thread of okay, when that guy's done, because this guy's going to really blow some of that first thing apart or integrate heavily or whatever. I don't want to do those in parallel, but I do want to be ready as soon as it's open. And then I have like two or three totally unrelated things, and that's great because they will not bump into each other. Or I have, maybe a window that's dedicated to rough edges and bugs and smaller merges that I know won't conflict with the other running things. And that reduces my stress. It's like, okay, I have confidence that the big thing is moving forward in a way that it doesn't require my attention every 5 or 10 minutes. Those are great to prepare, and then you run them and then you go to bed. But one of the things, I don't know if it was in your, I think it was in your original question list, is what happens when you run something and stop paying attention to it, and then you wake up to a whole bunch of emails of your LLM got stuck and is just like working a problem and not making progress. And it's like $16, $16, $16. It's like, so careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Parallelization means you're not driving it anymore. It's kind of driving itself and you're trusting it to do the right thing, and it doesn't always do the right thing.
Yeah, it stacks up. Those token usages stack up. So, are you really saving money because you know, y- it's pinging you all day or all night, and then you've got this big bill at the end of it. I mean, that was kind of the entry point of this conversation, was like the economics of it. Does it really add up? And what can we how can we guide others when they're thinking about, how they're incorporating AI into their world?
I think Eric and I are both maybe coming to it in the same space, but in a different way. How can I get all this stuff to work for me for free? I think that's really like, how can I spend the least amount of money doing this?
Mhm.
And I do think it's a bit unfair. Again, it goes back to that Amazon Prime scenario. It's like, I'm going really fast. How do I go faster? And in this case, like it costs way less than having a product manager, a product designer, multiple engineers, an architect to test. Like, so it is already infinitely cheaper, and I get really pissed when I get a $16 bill. But let's be realistic. It's a $16 bill. It's not a $2 million bill. Like, it's so the scale is funny because now we can go really fast for really cheap, and we get pissed when it periodically gets a little bit expensive. So, but still, I want to go faster. I want to go cheaper. So now we're in an interesting spot where Anthropic is struggling to scale their infrastructure to support the demand. And so they keep messing with their pricing. They keep messing with the policy. So a $200 subscription, I can do an amazing amount of work, but they're not saying the gray zone of, well, if you do this kind of work, I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to bill you on your API, even though you still have tokens available in your low cost subscription. So a lot of people are like, this really sucks. What do I do? At the same time, ChatGPT's Codex just launched a release that is performing as well as Anthropic's Opus and Sonnet and so on. So I have a problem over here, and now I have this low cost solution over here that performs in the same way. And then add to that the open source community. Some of those models are also achieving the same kind of throughputs and the same kind of results. You got to run it. So you've moved the cost from paying somebody a subscription to running infrastructure or buying a, very beefy desktop or whatever that may be. But we're always like that. I told somebody this morning at the coffee shop, I'm like, don't focus on getting really good at Anthropic. Like, get really good
Yeah.
on how to drive a tool, because those tools are like constantly changing. So don't make the cheese the provider in the model. Make the cheese your process and the learning and so on, so that you can kick these things in and out, and you don't get
I love,
stuck.
yeah. I agree with you, Oren. Yes, that is exactly the thing. Like, you need to understand these principles and these concepts deeply, because otherwise, when you go into the other, another tool, that's the application you want to be using. Go ahead, Eric. I know you want to jump in.
Oh, so there's kind of a couple responses to that. The first thing is start small. Just figure out one piece. Don't try to go parallelize the thing. If you don't have the first piece kind of where you're getting the results you want, just kind of keep working on that, because I think a lot of it's these are totally new tools. You're kind of re-educating yourself on how to make things work, and it's not always intuitive. The same way a lot of software problems are not intuitive. So yeah, just go small, build on it, and always kind of check your work. So I think that's a big piece of it, but I went all into like the open code, which is like, I'm not going to use the Anthropic tool. I want to make sure I'm agnostic to all models. But then I was like, well, this Max subscription, I get like, 30x if I'm using the open one with the API key. So it's like, okay, well, let's be realistic. I'm going to go find the best bang for my buck. So, okay, yeah, I will use Claude Code. So I think what kind of got me past that is, well, I want to be agnostic so I can switch tools at any time based on the current deal of the month. So that means taking away some of the built-in stuff that they provide. Like for me, memory and knowledge of the thing that they're working on, that's the magic sauce because when I bring up a new agent, is it starting from scratch with amnesia, or can it find all the breadcrumbs to learn everything? So what I mean by that is, you know, as I tell it to save its memory, a lot of in the larger legacy code bases, I have it actually create its own wiki and its own memory system inside the code repository. And every time we mess up, we save it and we save it in that. So if I bring up Codex or Claude next to each other, they actually both are going to get the same reference information. I'm not relying on, some of that information going to OpenAI servers or something else. It's all in a place where, I own it. I own the synthesized, knowledge, and I can then be agnostic while taking full advantage of the tools themselves.
Is it actually in a wiki or is it on your desktop?
Uh, I
Wiki
so
format.
it's a wiki format, right?
Got it.
So just markdowns with organized, as anally retentive as a LLM would do it, right? Because I would not build out a wiki and all these pages the same way because I get lazy. But the LLMs, they'll do it and they'll hierarchically
They're
build
happy
it
to bill
out.
you.
Yeah, they're happy to do it. But once you take ownership over that, that gives you the freedom to say, okay, well, I'll bring up another tool, and or you could do side by side. Hey, I tried a Chat GPT model or an Anthropic model, but you have to have intention if that's what you're going to do. And I think we'll all end up getting there because the tools aren't going away.
Yeah. Well, I have lots more questions, but I just wanted to ask anybody who's on with us right now, please chat us your questions. And we're happy to answer them in the last 15 minutes or so. Um, I think that, you know, one of the things that, really wanted to accomplish in this webinar is to talk about what the how we should be thinking now about where we're spending our money, where clients are coming to us. Could they start something out and then bring it to our team to fix, or should they just be bringing the ideas and then we'll tell them some ways that they can start? I'm just curious about how people should be thinking about these conversations they might be having with us moving forward.
Well, I do want to start. I feel like vibe coding isn't bad, and it's not always going to put you in a situation where something needs to be fixed. Prior to the AI world, we would see lots of startups go off and create their MVP. This allows them to get funding and start getting customer feedback. And maybe a year or two in, they come to us and it's like, okay, I've built the thing, but the user experience needs a little bit of expertise and we need to start thinking about production. This one server is starting to wobble and the performance is lagging and like all those kinds of things. Totally a great thing that was built, didn't need to be rewritten all the time. I think that's still applicable whether humans are doing it or certain people are driving the AI to get there. So it's not necessarily fixing. Maybe you just need to scale your idea. I would say, regardless of your role, you should be pushing AI into everything and all the people around you. You should be pushing that into those people, and you should be pushing your vendors to be doing it. Like it used to be, hi vendor, who are you? What protections do I as a customer have against you when you go rogue or become a poopy pants or whatever it may be? I think you need to extend that question to how do you use AI so that I get my requirements satisfied faster? How do you do it in a way that, you don't leave behind you broken things as you build new things? And I think it's going to take some customer experience to know to ask the right questions to help them choose a vendor that's maybe further down that road or hasn't even started that journey yet.
Yeah. We do have a question. One tool that hasn't come up in the conversation is the one that I'm using, which is Replit. Any thoughts about that kind of vibe coding tool, will it be harder, easier to rescue, or for successors to jump in to code later than other environments?
So again, I think most of those that camp of tools, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they will get you a certain distance, and it's awesome, and it produces working code. But the biggest problem I have, and it's really a personality issue. It's like this button is a little bit greener than that button, or this one's got square corners, that one's got round corners, or this form isn't capturing data in the right way, or maybe the app isn't quite processing in the right way. Those tools tend to be kind of hard to pinpoint and focus in on those kinds of problems. It's happy to collect the data and create an experience for you, but if you want to be really anal on how that data is collected, how the schema of the database shapes up, how the user experience works, I find that it's that 90%, 90% problem. Like you spend 90% of your time making it work, and then you forever spend 90 more percent in that last 10
Yeah.
to get it to do the thing in the way that you want to do it, because you don't have as much control as if you're driving the agent in a traditional coding environment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the other piece of it is like, tools like that are kind of come with a fixed stack, a fixed solution. So part of that means you're going to get more value out of it, but it also means there may be some point in which the thing you want doesn't quite fit into that stack, and you got to make a pivot, or you want to bolt on a different piece of technology, and some of that's just not supported. But uh, that's just that's the trade-off. But they can get you up and running super fast to figure out, was this the right thing? Was what I had in my mind? Now that I see it in bits and bytes, is it doing what I want? And
Yeah, I
for
almost
that part, I think it's awesome.
I almost see it as like, like I think what you were referring to is MVPs. That would be a PowerPoint, right? It would just be,
Yeah.
a wish on a PowerPoint, and now you can maybe get closer to what that MVP looks like.
Well, a
I,
good example. I'm one of those anal people that wants to have a brand, and I want my brand to be as on point as I can possibly do it. At the same time, I recognize that I need to be able to generate quotes and presentations really fast, and so those two things tend to be at odds with one another. Where I want my outputs to be exact, but I also want it to be quick. And so I went down this path of, well, there's all these great tools that will use AI to take my ideas and translate them to a deck. But getting the granularity in the user experience, the story I'm telling, the look and the feel and the colors and like all that stuff, I could never make that happen. Like I've yet to find that tool to include. We live in Google Drive, and Google Drive has an amazing AI thing. And every time I ask it to do something, I'm like, what the crap is that? Like I can't even start with its outputs, let alone like spend some time manually doing it. So it's another one of those use cases. Well, Claude, ChatGPT, any of these things, they can literally do anything you want. So at some point, I'm like, okay, I've got to find a solution for this, and it's been great. Like the whole team will attest to the output has been great. I spent a day and I spent all my credits for the day working with all my tools to make a tool that could, instead of me pointing and clicking and dragging, moving stuff around, it just takes all of my personal human inputs that I would have to take to create the deck and works through phases to make the story and plans that story into all the slide types that I created in my actual Google template for a presentation. And I taught it how to put the things in the right place, and I had to be creative in doing it. But now we're at a point where we haven't really rolled it out to anybody, but it's literally a tool anybody could say, all right, here are all the transcripts from all the meetings we've had with this customer. It does a much better job pulling out what the customer needs and speaking to their pain points than I could ever have done in images and their PowerPoints and their PDFs. And it's like cool. And it's done, in minutes or hours. Would have taken me days. And it's with my brand polish. Like everything's in the perfect place. It's great.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're also speaking to is this idea we brought up last time, Eric, is this second brain, is making sure that you're giving it all the artifacts it needs for being you, and at least
Mhm.
giving you a chance to have something to react to at first,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of I think I hit part of that in, hey, now all my code repos need their own wiki, which is the brain of the project. That just I keep going with that. And I think I kind of apply it everywhere. It's just, yeah, the context, we talk about context in terms of AIs, but the actual knowledge about each project or your overall preferences. Yeah, it's I think that was I said somewhere I'm turning into this hippie where I need to own all my things and it's kind of it's funny because I'm the last person that would be that way, but
Yeah, you're this
yeah.
freedom. You said freedom hippie is what you
Yeah,
said.
yeah, freedom hippie. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I do. I want the freedom and the ownership over that information. And if once you do that, you can kind of bring it in, and the results you get out are just that much better in terms of your preferences. And yeah,
Sure. And I think that's why at the
For-
end of the day, our mental load is so overwhelmed because we're not getting the outputs that we want. And so we're constantly tweaking and wrangling. And,
hmm
I'm always saying to the team, we're creating more content, but I'm still having to tell it what to do. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm spent.
yeah. It's interesting because managing programmers, you periodically run across certain programmers that are like way smarter than any other person ever. And that usually is not the best person on a collective team
yeah,
because their perspective is I can build it myself. Like, why would I use this open source tool managed by thousands of people and used across all these I'll just build my own. That used to be like, oh crap, like get rid of that guy, don't hire that guy. Like that guy is a fire creator in your company. But now we're in a completely different world. Like I'm currently building a second brain in one of the apps that we're working on, and I've gone out and interrogated. Okay, well, how does Obsidian work, and how does this work, and how does this work, and they all have differences of opinion. And I'm like, hold my beer. I'm gonna go make my own because none of like your agent harness paperclip for me does great things. Paperclip didn't work for you. Well, screw it. I'll just make my own. And it's so doable now as long as you have the experience to guide your output. So it's
yeah,
fascinating time.
It is. I think, yes, AI is, worrisome and challenging. And, there's documentaries out right now about what you need to worry about in the future. But, we literally have two people with gray beards telling us, that it's an exciting time.
it's incredibly exciting. Yeah,
If you are not bothered by who moved my cheese and your pastime is I want to learn more things because I have a very curious mind. Like, so for me, it's like, oh, it's awesome. Like every week there's 5,000 new things to learn and I love it. If you're not that person, this is not a fun time by any means.
yeah, for sure.
Mm. So I guess that what we can wrap with this idea of the paradox of the junior people and them not they're maybe coming into an AI situations where they're not having to have the experience that you have. So fast forward 10 years from now, what holes are we going to have, of people who haven't grown up with the knowledge that you two have?
I think this week we actually had an internal conversation identifying that as a problem. When we started 10 years ago, we're a consultancy that brings experts and we speak transparently about our experience and we say no appropriately and all that, but it requires an experienced, confident individual to do that. We're kind of seeing that people are not signing up for computer science programs anymore because they think AI is going to totally take their job. I keep describing like all the lily pads you have to step on to build your experience. Those are great things for AI to do. Like that is AI's sweet spot. So where we started our company was let's go build a coding school. Let's teach people how to do it. 10% of those people are probably amazing people. We'll get them to work for us and hold on to those amazing people as long as you can until they go to the Microsofts of the world. And we kind of stopped that mostly because of COVID, but still, I think we're in a position now where if you are going to have a business that thrives on talent, you better be contributing to building that talent and bringing those people in and giving them a path forward because I think that pool is likely to dry up.
What do you think, Eric?
100%. As I'm uh, talking with my developers, say, hey, we're bringing this stuff in, we're going to do this. Like, I could go do it all, but that's not. It's what's important for me is to walk them through the path, and it's like I will sit and spend hours with them. Like, let's start from scratch, and I'll just kind of let you type in every single thing, and a lot of it's showing them the way of how to learn about the AI as they're doing the AI, right? So, because it's you kind of come in, there's a blank screen. It's like, well, what do I do? I don't even know what to ask it to do. So a lot of it's changing the mindset to ask the questions and ask the AI, what can you do for me? Hey, I'm thinking about X. So developing the talent and being super transparent about it, like, hey, this is going to change how we're working. It's very important for me to make sure you have the skills going forward, not only for this company, but as a human that I care about. Uh, developing, where you may or may not go next after this. Uh, but yeah, I think like any good business, you've got to invest in your people. I don't think that goes away. I think it may be, twice as important.
Context is important for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. This has been great conversation. We're almost to the hour. Any final thoughts that you want to share?
I should have one less coffee before I come to these.
You're feeling energized.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I
yeah.
started my day. I went well. So here's times are so exciting. I'm up till 3 or 4 every morning. But I had a meeting at 8 this morning, so I also got up early. And then to stay awake, I'm like, yeah. I think it came through in this call.
It's a supersized cup too.
Yeah, you brought the energy. So, well, I mean,
This is the third one.
we need to share that energy because I do think there is genuine worry and fear. And so I think that's what these conversations are about. Let's keep having them for people to see in real time what we're doing. It's not the YouTubes of the world telling us, you gotta use this tool. It's so amazing, And it's like, well, here's the reality of using this tool, and here's what you might need to be thinking about as well. So we'll keep
There's
sharing.
uh there's one guy on YouTube that I think we all appreciate, and he's got like this super negative Nancy opinion of all the things. But sometimes, like Eric and I look at it, and I'm like, yes, I'm on YouTube. I make money from telling you the world is gonna, go to crap. And I'm like, but also I can see he doesn't actually have any experience to form the opinion that he's forming, and
Yeah.
he's guiding people's opinions because he has a following. I'm like, oh man, now more than ever, you need to be following a bunch of people on these topics and weed through the noise that they give you and kind of form your own opinions. Because if you get into these negative channels and that's all that you do, that I don't think that's necessarily all real. You should be in some negative channels because they're thought provoking, but grain of salt.
Yeah, yeah. So keep sharing. We'll keep talking, and thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.